lecture is going to work is hopefully going to be quite straightforward. I obviously will at certain points allow questions and stuff like that. What I'll do is I'll keep an eye on the chat at certain points. No, because I've muted you all. So please just use the chat to say hello to each other. 150 of you were in the previous session. Right, so let's get started. And let me start by sharing my screen. Give me a moment. So I am going to get, right, let's get, bear with me a second, right, Google Chrome, that's what I want. Okay, so can everyone see my screen? Hopefully, let's have a quick, just keep an eye on the chat just in case. Where is your chat? Okay. Bear with me a second. Right. Okay, so I'm hoping, for some reason now, I can't see the chat window. Let me just collapse that window and see if I can find the chat. Hang on, there we go, chat. Right, so I'll just keep an eye on the chat. Cool, yes, lots of yeses. Okay, I almost thought Nathan's video was one of the YouTube videos on Moodle. It is. Okay, so this is the core computing. I think about a few of you have had a chance to have a look at it already. Core computing, I won't repeat what I've put in this first video. This is a really nice, do you see that open mouth look? That's me all the way, anyway. But that introductory video explains the broad shape of this unit. And for those of you who haven't looked at it, please, Pog, is that a reference to Star Wars? This opening video explains the unit to you. There are 2 pages. You're broadly split into your own page. Some of you are cybersecurity. Okay. Some of you, I'm just going to close the chat out of my site so I can just concentrate for a few minutes. Okay, I'll take questions in a minute. So what I have here is the core computing. You'll have some video material. There's a week 4 introduction, so what's going on here. Let's have a very quick look at the syllabus. Now this is, if I'm correct, it should be recorded. Let me just double check the recording. Yeah, so we are recording this, and what I'll do is I'll post this video up for you to have a look at, or for anyone who's not here. So very briefly, let's see if I can just squeeze that up a bit. We only have 4 weeks for the first section of this unit, and then the week beginning the 9th of November, this week down here, is your submission date for the first piece of coursework you'll have from me. And I've just realized that the way that they've re-timetabled you is that you're all together, which means that I can release the coursework straight after this lecture. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to delay it till the end of the week. I'm going to let you see it straight away. And what I'm going to try to do very briefly is talk to you about this very first section and what you're expected to do. It is reasonably straightforward, okay? But where some of you will struggle or be slightly confused might be around the issue of what do I mean by video presentation, video essay, all this kind of stuff, and plus the content. What are you going to write about? Okay, so let's go back to the Moodle page, this section, the assignment, the first assignment section is hidden from you at the moment, but I'm still going to go and talk through it, and then I'll make it visible, as I say, at the end. I'm going to start with this spreadsheet here. Okay, so this spreadsheet you don't have access to just yet, and the screen is very small, so I'm just going to expand the size of it. Give me a second. What you'll notice in this spreadsheet, what I'm going to release to you is 20 topics, okay? And we'll whisk through them very briefly. These cover current issues, past issues, future issues, and I'll scan my way through them to give you an idea of how you might want to approach them. then you'll notice that in this spreadsheet, if you go along, there are 20 spaces for students to put their IDs. Okay, so essentially there are 460 plus of you. So there may be a few extra student IDs that I need to accommodate. I may need to add a few more columns at the end to make sure. So I'll probably do that in a moment. The basic gist of what you're doing is you're selecting one of these, okay, you are going to do not a written essay, not a written discussion. You're going to do a presentation, but the presentation is only 2 minutes long, and it's going to be a video presentation. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that you could have something on screen, and you could have some images there, and you could talk over those images, but you have to construct a presentation, right? You will have to speak it. You cannot use speech to text. You'll hear me say that several times. Automated speech to text software will make you simply just lose marks. It is a presentation, but you're not having to do it in physical presence, and you don't have to be physically visible in the, interesting, how did two people get onto that? Two people will get onto, I can't hear any of you, and I really do need to see some of your comments. Right, so let's just keep our focus on what we're doing here. You're going to select one of these questions. You put your student ID in the column, so I know who's going for what, okay? Generally one student ID per column. If it spills over and there's a topic that you want to do, then what I need you to do is perhaps is to email me if it runs out. The reason that I'm doing it like that is actually it's more interesting for me and for you to have a variety of different related topics. So let's have a quick sweep through the kind of thing that we are looking at. Okay, we're looking at autonomous cars. And there's a question here about an intermediate technology. They're nothing more than public transport dressed up as private. Discuss. If that interests you, please don't enter anything into here. Otherwise, I will just shut the spreadsheet down. Okay. I need everyone to be basically in the same position. So if there are more popular questions than others, that would be helpful. Thank you. There's this more general one, computers are thinking machines. So those of you who have more of an interest in kind of discussing stuff in a more philosophical way and want the freedom to do it, that's the kind of question you might go for. Look at this one down here. This is a slightly more technical, challenging one. The computer was born out of a combination of automation, symbol processing, and the algorithm. Some of you who've studied A-level maths, maybe A-level computer science, may find that's an appealing question and something you can play with. The next one is brain-computer interfaces, and it's more of a kind of political take on it, that they're a dangerous technology, they can lead to biohacking in the future and huge risks. You might decide to choose that. So what you'll notice is as you run down, you have a whole variety and style of question. And I'll talk to you about how you're going to be assessed so it's all fair. We've got one reference to Ready Player One and VR and XR. The Turing test is an interesting question here. The Turing test was designed to see if a computer could pass as a human. Today, we've seen humans fail the Turing test. So I'm not quite sure if any of you know that, but it's really worth looking at. This may fascinate some of you. This is a new field in computing called lovotics. And it comes from the word love and robotics, and it's all about human-robot relations. If you do decide to do this, you've got to make sure your content is not explicit or dodgy, but there is a lot of very, very strange stuff going on and around that particular area. If you're interested in looking into quantum computing, there's a question around there. If you're interested in Internet of Things, Industry 4.0, and all this type of stuff, there's an opportunity here. This is an interesting question. M2M is machine to machine communication. So it's when you get more and more systems. No, please don't do that, folks. Can you not just randomly type into the spreadsheet? It's not appreciated, okay? Take the BBB stuff out. M2M is all about machine to machine. So you'll have to Google that and you'll have to have a look at that and so on. So let's have a look at another one. There's one on Internet of Things. Here's one that might appeal to some of you who know anything about algorithms. Can an algorithm be evil? So what you're going to get from these types of questions is a range of stuff, not purely technical. There's a couple here that I really like. I don't know if anyone's seen the film about the NASA human computers. This question is based on that. Essentially, they used African-American female mathematicians to act as computers. They played a massive part in the first NASA project. If that's an area that interests you, or you think, wow, I didn't even know that happened, this is a chance for you to spend a little bit of time researching it and doing a short presentation. So it's a little bit more historical. If you're interested in hardware inventions, you've got the freedom there to select. Stuff about Boolean. Now you'll be doing Boolean stuff with another unit. So a real mixture. If you're interested in the history of computing and you've heard of Ada as a programming language, what you will notice is that Ada Lovelace was the daughter, I believe, of Lord Byron, and she played a very interesting and important role in the early history of computing about a century ago. So we have a real variety, and the purpose of the variety is to give you the freedom to find something that appeals to you, okay? Not appreciated, folks, right? As you are mucking about, some of you are mucking about and finding it quite entertaining, I'm just going to lay down a particular rule. There are rules here. And if you want to muck about, you will be penalized for it. It's much easier for us to catch you doing it because you're online, okay? So, however entertaining you find it, don't do it. There has to be a basic protocol of being respectful both to the lecturer and to your fellow students. If I see anything more dodgy, I will trace that particular student's ID, and there will be repercussions from it. You cannot behave like this in this setting, okay? In your own private moments with your own friends, fine, but not in a lecture and not under these circumstances. Certainly don't want to see that kind of stuff going on, folks. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to pause to give you a chance in the chat to ask any questions. So do we have any initial questions that the initial thing has just thrown up, has opened up? The link to the spreadsheet will be available at the end of this lecture. So let me work my way through your questions slowly. Okay, so are these video presentations we're doing able to be edited? Yes, of course. So there's some good questions here. Right, this is University Grow Up Kids. Okay, fair enough. Where's the link to the spreadsheet? Thank you very much, whoever wrote that. Where's the link to the spreadsheet? That, as I said, will be visible to you. There are some interesting questions here. I hope so. We've deliberately chosen a range of questions to give you, from whatever background and range of interests you have, an opportunity, thank you very much, an opportunity to delve into an interesting and relevant bit of the past, maybe the present and even the future. Okay, so when is this due? Okay, so let's talk about deadlines. If you look at, if you go to the Moodle page now, you'll find there's a schedule, which I just flashed onto screen a moment ago. And on that schedule, you'll find the week, it's either the week, I'll get the assignment up for you in a second to show you, to give you the deadlines. When is this due? Are these video presentations able to be edited? Yes. So last year we had some really interesting, really well put together video presentations where people got images in front of them. They work roughly out what they're going to say. Now, only one video, you've got to just select one that interests you, okay? When you ask, how many do we have to do? There's only one you have to do. But what students did last year, the most impressive ones were the ones where they roughly worked out what they were going to say. You're not going to be judged on the number of words you speak, right? You're going to be judged, and we'll talk, and I'll show you the assignment grading criteria and talk to you about that in a moment, on the quality of how you respond to that discussion, right? So the advantage of you speaking it is that you can make some notes for yourself and then attempt to work with it. You can script it for yourself if you wish, but you don't submit the script. Okay. Only one you have to do. How long does this presentation have to take? It's either 2 or 3 minutes. I'll show you in the assignment, and the link I will make available in a minute. Do we put our student ID and then our paragraph? No, all you do is you put your student ID by the question. And the idea is that is your question. So we only have 20, we only have 20 questions, right? Or 20 topics or 20 discussion points, depending on they're slightly different from each other, okay? So the idea is you put your student ID in that row, you've got to go away and you've got to discuss it. So all the 20 students who are on that same row will do that same question. I don't know what you mean when you say, and then our paragraph. I'm not sure what you mean by a paragraph. Video essay, I'll give you the length time. I'll talk through the timings. I'll show you the assignment in a minute. How long do we have to create the presentation from as a question? You basically have from today, it's almost 4 weeks, 3 weeks, I would say minimum. Okay, we'll check the dates and make sure that I give you that all accurately. The length I will talk about. You can use Google Slides as your source of images, right? But you cannot submit a PowerPoint, right? I suspect some of you will, but here's the thing to note. If you submit a PowerPoint, you will not be submitting the correct format. The video, we specify video formats to you, and PowerPoint, PPT or PPTX or whatever is not one, neither is a PDF. You can't submit a PDF. Okay, so what are we doing exactly? Well, maybe you should watch the videos and give yourself a time to digest, okay? If it doesn't make sense to you straight away. Let's have a look if there's anything else. Will there be a written brief? No. That question is all you have to go on. And then what we're going to do in the remaining lectures is we're going to talk about, as one of your very first assignments here at university, the one thing that we have to help you and get you used to is the idea of what it means to be doing higher education. If you've gone to colleges and you've done your A-levels, you will have done school and maybe further education if you did BTEC. Related stuff, but higher education, and the reason that you're here at university is the world wants you to develop certain types of skills. Okay, so the remaining lectures will talk about how you might produce it. We'll have some content of some of the subject areas, some areas that might be just fascinating for you to look at, but it will be largely about the process of how you go about analytically discussing a topic. Some of you might have done a philosophy or a politics or an English degree, and you'll have developed those skills, but many of you won't have. In fact, many of you won't have had to formulate arguments for any particular topic. You can disagree. If it says discuss, if it makes a statement, right? Do you have to agree with the statement is a question here. Can you disagree to it or with it? Yes, of course. The whole point of a discussion is that you can challenge it. No, you don't have to present live, okay? You are pre-recording it in your own time, which gives you the freedom and the flexibility to spend time and get that right. Okay, same question again. How are we going to be grouped? It's individual work. So you're going to be doing it on your own. It's going to be about 2 or 3 minutes. It is short, but the challenge for you is this, okay? Some of you have already gone out and done maybe part-time IT work and worked in the industry, but what you're going to find is that one of the really key skills is how to take a topic, how to condense it succinctly into a short piece and pick out the key elements. That's a skill that we need you to learn. So that's part of the focus of the reason it is so short. If I gave you half an hour, you could basically read out a book or a chapter from a textbook, right? There's no value to you. But the reason it's so short is because the thing you're being tested on is how cleverly can you pick out key points and how can you put them together in order to allow you to make your overall point. Where will recorded sessions be located? Do you mean where will they be uploaded? Generally, we're going to create a Moodle link for you. And if your file is too big, then there's a recommendation that you get a Google share, get the link to the share, put it in a text file and upload the text file to it, or even better, upload it to your student YouTube, unlist it so no one else can see it, and then give us a link to that in a text file, whichever is easier. The YouTube one is actually the most effective. How are we going to pick our topics to talk about? Okay, Stefan, I'll show you in a minute. Did you just miss everything I just said? Do we just have the single topic, or do we have all the topics listed? Right, Scott, I'll let you think about that. If I asked you to do 20 topics in 4 weeks, that would be incredibly unreasonable. Only one place you're putting your thing. Okay, Christina asks a good question. How will the video presentation be graded? That's I'm going to show you in a few minutes. How many do we do? Okay, just one, right? How will the presentations be marked? I'm going to do a few more questions, then I'm going to move and show you the assignment before I release it. Argument AI Brain is my two favorites, as it's the link to the full derivative. Okay, how will the video essay be marked? Again, same kind of question. Let's see if there's anything else. We don't have access to Moodle at the moment. Can you please send the link in the chat? Yes, I can, Amy. I'll make a note. What I'll do is at the end of the session, I'll give you a share to it. Does the presentation have to be just as recorded, or can we record over a produced video? I'm not quite sure what that means, record over a produced video. Maybe Zach, you can email me with that question separately. It's individual, Vilius, a marking question, drop-in events in the timetable compulsory. Okay, that's a tangent to this, but drop-in events are not compulsory. Okay, you can have a note sheet. Okay, so Isabel, you asked a question, a useful question. Can we have a notes sheet in how you do it? Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, think about how I'm doing this lecture. I've got a bunch of notes. I know roughly what I'm going to say, and then I go through the process of saying it, and it's being recorded. Okay. So you should have notes for yourself. You remember, if you've got good editing software, I'll give you a link to some. I think I've got Open Broadcast System software, which we've got on our university systems, but that's free, that's available to you. Any video recording software you have that allows you to pause, then use the pause. So you can do it in short sections, so you make it manageable for yourself. Okay, so last year I did a very similar presentation, so will I be able to use slightly edited version of the same and re-record it? Yes to you, yes. Sorry, you just asked a question privately, Jonathan. The answer is yes. What applications can we use to make the presentation? Right, so Zara, we will come to those questions in a moment when I just want to see if there's anything else. So the general gist, I think from the looks of it, most of you have got the gist of what's going on here. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. And this time, let's just see if there's anything in the last few in this video is a bit overkill. AE, I'm not quite sure what that means. Oh, is that a piece of software? You need, oh, After Effects, sorry, yes. It probably is overkill. It's entirely up to you. Here's the thing, you know, in the world that you're going forward, who knows what will happen with COVID? Who knows what will happen with working remotely? Who knows how many times you will be expected to do presentations through videos, through small screens? Who knows whether your working life will be remote working in a large number of cases? This is very, very, very important to kind of get you tuned into that type of stuff. Excellent. Okay, so that's actually a really nice point. I think Kobe has put something about great for video editing. Here's a good thing. I might create a forum on the Moodle page to allow you to share that stuff and share alternative technologies that you can. COVID 19.01 is new release coming soon. I like that comment, Thomas. Good. Right. So I'm going to share my screen again. And this time, what I'm going to do is talk through the coursework. And bear with me a second. Right, so my screen is being shared now. And let's go to the coursework page. Okay, so all of this is available to you here. Let's click on the assignment. Let's get this bar out of the way so it doesn't interfere with my... Okay, and I'm going to just make that screen a bit bigger. Now, what I'd like to do in the last 15, 20 minutes of this, okay, is do something I hope very important for you. What you're going to discover while you're at university, the BTEC students might be in a stronger position than the A-level students, but I'm not really sure because most teachers these days show you the grading and assessment criteria so you know where you should put your effort. Certainly with BTEC teaching, that's key. And in A-level, you have marking criteria, right? It's absolutely critical that you understand how you're being assessed. So grading criteria will be crucial to you. I had a final year student who had a module, he couldn't make sense of the grading criteria. He really struggled to do well with it. So if a lecturer does not supply you with the grading criteria that makes sense to you as a group, you should ask questions so it's clear. Because if you end up in the degree putting effort into something that you earn no points for or get no grades for, or you lose grades because you've misunderstood how it's graded, that isn't good for you, right? So it's absolutely critical that we are as transparent as possible, and that if it's not clear to you, that you ask us to help you understand it. And I guarantee to you that you will have that experience this year with some lecturers who will write grading criteria that you think, I don't quite get how I'm being graded. And that may also happen in what I'm going to show you now. So I'm going to encourage you to always ask sensible questions. Right, so interesting how you managed to piggyback onto the coursework when it's not shared, visible. Anyway, won't worry about that. Okay, so here's the front sheet. The front sheet just summarizes, there are two sets of units here, okay? This is worth 25% of this particular module. And if you watch my introductory videos, you'll see there are 4 segments for this core computing. 25% is not a lot. It's not here to kind of torture you with complexity. It's here to give you an opportunity to do something which will open up certain possibilities in what you're able to do. This is absolutely critical, the acceptable video file formats. And it's also critical that you don't use any complex video codec or encoding process when you make your videos, because we will basically use VLC or QuickTime in order to watch your videos. And if we can't, or a browser, if we can't, then your video is unwatchable. So notice here, there is no PowerPoint. So although PowerPoint gives you some similar options, you need to be able to hit screen record when you do your PowerPoint. Okay, so these are opening sheets. You should see this quite a lot in every assignment. So what's crucial here? There is a link in there, which it'll be visible to you in about 20 minutes for you to enter your grades. I talked through what I've just said to you very briefly there. So the first thing you've got to do is select a question. So you will select a row on the, hang on a second, bar is in my way. You will select a row here. I can see that some of you are already in, but please don't do it until we start so everyone has a fair, and scan all 20 questions. There is no priority. They were done to mix things up and I could have reordered them. If you feel history is more interesting to you, and so, etc. Anyway, I've said that already. So you will put your number, your UP number, say here, and that means that that will be your submission from me. So when I come to marking, and we come to marking and grading you, we will look at this, type in your UP number, see the question that you're writing. If you end up doing a different one, or you don't end up answering it, you will lose grades, you will lose marks. So this is not just for, you know, for some introductory purpose. It's our way of seeing what you've decided to do, and you've got to stick to it. Your second task will be to put together a video presentation. So we're going to go through the grading criteria very briefly in a sec. You're going to record it. The presentation must have 2 components. I don't know why I said 3. It's got to have audio, okay? And the audio has to be narration from yourself. It cannot simply be text on a screen. It has to be you speaking. Remember, this is a presentation. And if you were going to your first job, or if you're lucky enough and you get some summer placement stuff, you will have to talk to people, okay? You cannot use speech to text. We want to hear your voice. Even if you're hesitant or unsure at the beginning of your university experience, we want to build that confidence up. This is a safe environment, okay? You're videoing it and only the lecturer will watch your video. No other students will, okay? So you need to bear that in mind. And you will have to create a video. So you'll embed audio inside it. So you can accompany it with images that support you. I've had students last year who'd had some really fascinating diagrams on slides that they were then able to help explain their particular concept they're at. You'll upload your video to Moodle and the link will be made available in the next 2 weeks, not straight away. And they're the acceptable file formats. I'm repeating this, as you'll notice, in several different places because it's very easy for people just not to pay attention. Video recording tools. The university does supply OBS. Okay, it's quite heavy on machines. It's open source. It's very popular amongst gamers. In fact, it's one of my students, one of my tutees, who's now on placement at Elenco. Excellent company to get placement with. He's an excellent student and he said to me, Nad, there's this software here if you want to just do some simple screen recording. So I've been using it a lot in previous years. You might find it really useful. If you have an alternative, go ahead and use it, but we need to make sure that we supplied you with at least one. You can pause this and you can have multiple screens moving around and so on. Okay, so that's one offer. You don't have to use this, but you can. It's there as a kind of minimal. There's some information about the submission. Here, this is absolutely crucial. So you should get used to seeing this type of thing. The name that you use is generally always, for the files, your UP number followed by the numbers. Okay, you'll notice this a lot in lots of your submitted assessments. So get used to it. If you put your name, we can't trace that and match it up against that spreadsheet, okay? If it's not your UP number, then it's not very, very helpful. As I said to you before, if your video is too large then use your university YouTube account. So what I mean by that is you'll see here, this is my university staff one. And in your little grid up here, as part of your student ID, you will have where is it? It's not there. Hang on. I need to go over here. If I go over to my email, if you click on there, you'll see you'll have YouTube. Now that is tied to your university account. So all the videos I'm creating are on the back of my university account. And that's what I would do if your video is way too long and you cannot upload it. There's a limit on that. So use a text file, right? So .txt with this name, UP, whatever your number is, .txt, and inside it have a link to your YouTube. Remember to unlist your YouTube video so no one else can see it. And you can Google what it means to unlist videos. They don't appear in searches. They're not visible to anyone else, okay? We do have VLC as well for playing. So this is a question, this section in front of you, I'm just going to expand it a little bit more if I can. No, that went the other way. Let's do 175. This is probably quite crucial, and this is what several of you have already asked. How are you going to be graded? So the grading process will involve two parts. We're going to look at the discussion and then actually look at the video. When we look at the discussion, we're going to look at how well you've presented the problem that you're discussing. So some of these topics may not look like they have a problem. They may not have an issue. So we'll have to discuss how you would interpret that for this particular thing. You'll have a criteria here, which will be, and these will have number values attached to them. So that we haven't settle that down, but it's typically 0 to 10, 0 to 10, 0 to 10, 0 to 10, and then you get a sum of all of those in order to get your grade for this particular 25%, right? but the main argument is crucial. So how well do you present the discussion in terms of the facts you use, the explanations you give, the analysis and reasoning? So this is, it's not quantity here, it's quality entirely. Now you're going to be relatively, the majority of you, inexperienced at this, especially if you've just done technical study in your previous study, A-levels or BTECs. You're not going to be very confident with it, but this is an absolutely critical skill coming to university and developing it. No employer wants to take on someone who cannot put an argument together. I'll give you a very simple example. If your boss at work, for example, said to you, I want you to build me a solution to this, and you come back and you give the solution and your boss says, well, why did you choose this? I don't get it. It doesn't look right. And you can't explain it. You're stuffed. Right? That's very basic. And that is a skill you need to develop here at university. Balance of approach is an important one because we want you to show, well, I want to see from you your ability to look at different perspectives. Remember, you don't have a lot of time to do it. Let me just have a look. Where is the length, the video length? I've actually put it in here. I would just double check in a second how long the video will be, and that I've made a note of it. Okay, balance of approach and works cited. Last year we had some students who said, where should I put my cited works? You know, if you're going to just use popular websites and Wikipedia, they aren't as good quality as some other material. And it's very important that you put better quality stuff in. Later on this year, at the beginning of your second semester, you'll have a literature review. And this is a skill that will help you with your literature review, being able to find good sites, good sources. And finally, I don't want to, we'll look at the quality of the video itself. How well is it organized? Does it flow? Is it clear? Is it well put together? But that's only one criteria out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so to answer the very last question, I'm trying to see where I have put in here the length. Record the video presentation. I think I might not have put it in. Right, so, okay, so I'm going to put it in here. Video presentation of maximum, we're going to say 2 minutes. If you go 10 seconds over 2 minutes, you're not going to be penalized. If you go to 3 minutes, yes, you are, right? So 2 minutes plus or minus, 10, 20 seconds. It isn't a lot of time. It's not a lot of pressure because if you're sensible about it, you'll work out how to condense what you have to say. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to open the platform back up for more questions. So any more questions? You left the link on the screen, people can type it in. Thank you for that. I kind of thought, oh my goodness me. Right, he doesn't know chat, he doesn't know chat. Anyway, we'll leave the childish comments out. Okay, so I don't have to write a full-length documentary, no. Okay, I will in a moment, in about 5 minutes, release it all. Yes, you do have to choose a question, right, for the person who asked. Let's have a look. Hang on, I want to just catch some of these questions so I can answer you. I'm currently waiting for my transfer form to come through, and I've spoken to Yanis about this as I'm waiting. Should I do this? Yes, definitely. Tom, you should definitely do this. If you've got any other situation where your registration is messing around and you can't see Moodle, some students still can't see Moodle and stuff like this, then still do it. As it was Amy, I think, who said, can I please put the links into the chat window? I will do if you can't see Moodle. So I'll make them visible on Moodle in a moment, and then I will copy them into here so you all have access to them. How are we to cite our sources? Do we cite them at the bottom of the slides or at the end? That's entirely up to you. It's a good question, Connor. Do whatever you feel is appropriate. From our point of view, you are not going to be heavily penalized if your citation mechanism isn't perfect, because this is a first stab at it. And some of you may never have done anything where they had to cite stuff. We will have a lecture about it very briefly. I won't hopefully drag it on too much. You cite sources in a video by having something in front of you, and in the corner, you would have the citation. You know, you could have a text file with all the citations which you pop up on screen at the end of your video, for example. You don't necessarily have to do it along as you way. So James, is a good question. With the citing sources, okay to put the sources on the slides we're talking about? Yes, it is. So Ewan, you can do it like that. Yeah, I give you freedom to that. Okay, so Tom Sprouls has asked probably the most useful question so far I can think of. So he asks, so can we make a PowerPoint to talk over it? Absolutely you can, but you screen record it, okay? PowerPoint itself allows you to narrate inside PowerPoint, but you can't submit that PowerPoint file because it's not a video file, okay? Some students got muddled up with this last year and lost points. What I'm saying is that, just to pick up Tom's point, you could take PowerPoint or Google Slides or anything you like, put it up on screen, build it, don't pack it with text. Remember, who likes seeing just lots of words on a screen? Use images cleverly, use appropriate diagrams and whatever you need, clips of newspaper articles, etc. Don't just make it you know, bullet pointed points that you just read back, because that will get you a low grade for the video. If I was a lecturer and I did that with you, I deserve a low grade, if you see what I mean. So yes, you can create a PowerPoint, screen record it, and submit the screen recorded file. So what do I recommend in terms of resources? What we might do is create a forum on the Moodle page to allow you to share useful resources. I would like to keep this as simple as possible for you. I would say open broadcasting software will do your screen recording as long as you have a microphone on your computer, laptop, MacBook, or whatever. I would, if I was really not very confident with this, I would put together, I'd break down the problem, and in the next lecture on Thursday, we'll talk about how to break down this problem, basically into 4 stages, 4 simple steps for you to construct a very simple structure. And remember, 2 minutes is not very long. And use a simple open broadcast system, perhaps software, and maybe a Google slide on screen, and you're talking over it. That's probably the simplest way to do it. It's not that exciting, but we're not, you know, there are 5 criteria I showed you. Only one of them was the video. Yeah, I think I've answered that. We won't have to show our faces. No. I haven't asked you to show your faces. The only thing I ask you is that you speak it. Okay, now, obviously, if I can't see you, that's going to create a problem. So I'm going to rely on the fact that you will speak it. If it's speech to text, it's fairly easy to detect. If some of you see that as a challenge, and I see that, and it's obvious to me that it's speech to text, you will pointlessly lose marks. That's not something to exercise your curiosity. Can we trick the lecturer? Unless, of course, you're doing the Turing test and there's a question and you can build the 2 things, and that would be clever. But let's talk about it. You are sending a video. You're uploading a video. So you're not presenting live. So to mute the conversation. Okay, I'm not quite sure what you mean, Joe. Okay, there's some interesting resources people are sharing. Do you know what referencing style we'll be using? For the university, you use APA. Okay, yes, it is. It is your UP number ID you put into the spreadsheet. That's it. Any good sources to learn how to correctly cite references? Yeah, Charlotte, I will supply you with stuff. The library actually has some brilliant sources and brilliant material for it. So if I haven't done it, remind me. We'll talk about citation briefly in another lecture, because several of you have asked the question. Okay, so I like Augustine's question, which is, so basically we need to present our opinion using the 2 arguments and just finalize it with a conclusion. Right, couple of things. No one cares about your opinion, and don't want to be rude. I'm not being rude. No one cares about opinions. You're in a discipline area where having an opinion is free. Anyone can have an opinion. It isn't just about presenting your opinion. It is about having some kind of reasoning process behind and presenting an argument, right? You've almost said the same thing, but I am not interested in opinions. If you just say, this is what I believe and this is why, it's going to make a very dull presentation. What I want to know is the reasoning process which leads you to form a conclusion. Your conclusion is the view, your opinion, or whatever that you've arrived at from a process of reasoning, right? That's the skill that I want to try to encourage you to shift towards. Everyone has an opinion, and you know it better than I do because you're probably on the internet a hell of a lot more than I am. Everyone expresses an opinion, but in computing, we need things called analytical reasoning. We need skills like justification, how to explain stuff, how to express stuff succinctly. So please avoid the idea that you are it's just about your opinion. It won't get you very, very high grades. What if I record and it's 4 minutes, but I speed the video? That means that your voice is going to be very squeaky. No, don't do that. That's cheating, and that's not really that beneficial to you. Okay, I'm going to stop looking at the questions, and apologies if someone sent me a private message and I just broadcast it out. I'm not trying to embarrass her. Yeah, okay, I'm going to leave these questions. Can you, it's a good question from Vibhushan. Can you change your question if you change your mind? That's a very, very good question. What I would do is take your time in making a decision about the question you want to do, okay? If, you know, it's all the slots are busy with it, then contact me and ask me about it, okay? On the link you got to take of the last bit after, somebody posted a bad link. Okay, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Yeah, okay. All right, okay, we're going to try to avoid dumb questions and all the rest of it. So I'm going to go to Moodle now. I'm going to share my screen. Go to Moodle, and then I'm going to get the links and I'm going to post them in for you so you have access to this stuff. Turn the editing on. Now, this is going to be a process where you discuss, you're going to have questions, right? So we'll need a forum. So now, give it a moment, and they're all visible to you. So for those who can't get to, let's get the chat window back, who can't get access to it, let's just post them here. Okay, so that's the, no, hang on, that's a Moodle link, you don't want that. And then you just get trapped with Moodle. Right, let me give you the actual Google Doc link here. Right, so that one is the assignment. Okay, that's the first one. And the second one is the spreadsheet. Now, one thing that might happen is you find a question and you find that all the slots have gone for it. Please email me if that happens. Let me just stop sharing my screen. Okay, so folks, we've got one more question. Let's see if there's anything I can edit it. There's too many people on it. Joe, you can't edit it. Okay, okay. No, but someone can set up a Discord server if they want to, and we could use a Discord server. Okay, someone just asked the question, is it possible to get this done within a few days, or is it something whereby having all 3 weeks will benefit us all, just because it would be better to get it done as soon as possible rather than wait? Okay, so Matthew asks a really good question. What would I say to you? Okay, now, Matthew, I just want to explain something about you. Not only is my background in software engineering, but I have a philosophy degree. If you can knock together a presentation in a few days that impresses me, then go ahead and try it. The purpose of the 3 weeks is to give you supporting material, but as you go through them, you might realize that's fairly straightforward. I'm fairly confident with that. I don't need to worry. There is nothing stopping you from going ahead and just trying to build it. But be warned, and don't be arrogant, not to you, Matthew, but to anyone. If you think this is easy peasy and you can knock it out and it would just be done very, very quickly, I would say 2 things. Be patient and make sure you've given it plenty of thought. Think of it like this. If your boss or if someone asks you to do a presentation and it's very serious, the consequences of it, and you rush it out because you want to get it done, the risk to you is that you do a really bad job and you miss obvious things. And then you look in 2 weeks' time how other people have picked up points made in the lecture and how it really helps clarify and raise the quality of what they're doing. So don't rush it, okay? I would say if you're doing it in a few days, you probably aren't giving it the level of thought. But I'm saying that based on the fact that if you haven't got an English, language or literature, politics, philosophy, law, if you haven't done any of those kinds of subjects and you're able to knock out something very, very quickly, then you are an exception in that respect. It's not common to find students that confident that quick. So I'm going to stop. If you submitted a video and it's not good enough, can we resubmit on a later date? So Mark, you asked the good counter question to the other question that was asked. I will try to make the upload link, right? The upload link deadline will give you what's called, I'll do it so you submit a draft, which means that in theory, you should be able to delete it and re-upload it. Okay, so that means to answer Mark's question and also Matthew, implicitly the other question from Matthew, yes, you can upload a version, but and get it out of the way, but you might come back to it and think, wasn't so sure. I'm going to try to give you a link which allows you to submit a draft. At the moment the deadline closes, it converts all the drafts into proper submissions. Okay, so if you don't go back to it, it will be submitted, right? But if you're absolutely 100% confident, you submit a draft and then you actually submit it as well. Oliver, it's a good question. Could we email you the video presentation before uploading it to Moodle? No, there are 400 of you and it would be unfair. Okay, Stefan, well done. You've got a Discord server. Maybe I'll put that link on the Discord server. Can someone email me? It looks like several different servers going on here. So we just need to agree what one is that you're all going to work with. And then I'll put the link into Moodle so you can all share it as well. I forgot my line of thought. Sorry. Ask me again, folks. Can't see assessment 1. Okay, just refresh your page if you can't see it. What I mean by the question is that Matthew asked on my bio is that, will the 3 weeks benefit us? Well, honestly, is it completely separate in terms of topics and skills taught? No. Okay, so, I wasn't being critical. Let me just be clear. Luce, I can't quite work out how to pronounce your name, apologies. But to both Matthew and you, it's the point of these 3 weeks, and it's my job to try to give you something that's useful for you to benefit in terms of what you do, right? But having said that, you might feel, okay, that's all fairly straightforward. He's addressing stuff I'm confident with already. That's not a problem. So what you could do is maybe I would encourage you to check Moodle. I will probably put key stuff onto Moodle and notes and stuff. I would like to feel I can give you stuff, at least in the first few weeks, that's proper analytical stuff, the kind of communication skills and video presentation skills that if you don't do and don't have, then you're missing a trick. So I will, for your benefit and for everyone listening, the Thursday lecture, I will make that the first topic. I will try to give you a basic scheme of how to put an argument together in the simplest way, what's called an analytical argument, okay, which is essentially what your videos will have. You'll have facts, explanations, but it will be analytical. Okay, go to that one, see how you get on and see what you can or cannot learn from it and what benefit it has, okay? Let's have a look if we're running out of time. If you interpret the question wrong, did the video presentation submitted, but we have a compelling argument. Christina, you asked such a brilliant question. If you interpreted the question wrong, if you have any doubts, and this is open to everyone, that you've interpreted the question wrong, what we'll do is give you an opportunity to ask me how you've interpreted it. Maybe we'll have a chat, a one-to-one chat. We'll create a breakout room perhaps in this lecture, and I can have a quick chat with people. So what we might do in the lectures is have, say, half an hour of material, and the remaining half an hour, one-to-one chats with people. So I'll try to see if I can get that model working, because if some of you are worried about interpreting the question, I think it's only fair that you have a quick chat with me about whether you've got the basic gist of the question right. Yeah, because you would lose. If you misinterpret the question and what it's about, of course you will lose points. So it's a very good question to ask. Okay, we're almost out of time, folks. Thank you all for your patience and largely for your good behavior. Daniel, yes, the answer is yes, you do have to put sources in the video. On a screen, flash them right at the end, a list of them, right? Look at citation, but we'll have that for later. So for Matthew and for Luce's question, you may know how to cite. You don't necessarily need to wait for me to tell you. All of those people may know how to cite that. But if you don't know, then you might find that lecture. I'll try to do those types of stuff a bit later, but this Thursday I will do a basic scheme of how you would put an argument together in the broadest possible way, which you should be, all of you should be able to adapt to whichever one you're going to do. Okay, we still have tons of questions, but I think we have tutorial in a minute. And if anyone cannot get in and edit it, you need to if you can put a comment on the spreadsheet. If you can't even do that, then email me and I'll see. And if you can put the question that you want to put your number by, I'll do it for you, okay? And that I think we'll have to do. Someone send me a Discord server that you want to all chat with each other and have a kind of communication related to the course. But again, protocol and behavior is crucial. It's almost 1 o'clock, folks. You've got tutorial. And on Thursday, another opportunity, we'll go through a scheme. So for Matthew and Luce and anyone else who feels confident, just watch the Thursday one. Make sure you've got a basic schematic about how to construct an argument. See what I say. If it's useful to you, then you know that you've got the gist of what's required. You may want to run by your interpretation of the question, you may not, okay? All right, thank you all very much. And this is recorded, so this is available, will be available to you. I'll pop it onto Moodle later. Thanks a lot for your time, folks.